This is the EIR Podcast, where we interview entrepreneurs in residence with your host, Henrik de Geer.
Who are you and what do you do?
My name's Alan Singleton. I'm a corporate and intellectual property law attorney in Champaign, Illinois, located in the University of Illinois Research Park. I also serve as an entrepreneur in residence at Enterprise Works, the business incubator across the street from my office.
Alan, how are you involved as an entrepreneur in residence?
I have two or three capacities. The first is I meet on a regular basis, anywhere from 1 to 3 times a week, or maybe 4, with entrepreneurs who are either starting a business or are in the early stages of growing their business. The University of Illinois facilitates those meetings, and I sit down with the entrepreneur and talk through legal issues such as forming a business entity, protecting intellectual property, how to comply with immigration requirements, licensing issues, and sometimes merger and acquisition strategies.
Alan, what are the biggest challenges and successes you've seen as an entrepreneur in residence?
Challenges are trying to facilitate oftentimes a very intelligent academic to switch gears from academic thinking or science-based thinking to business and legal type thinking. As an attorney, we have our own language and there are a set of rules that apply, and we try to help these very bright entrepreneurs create a structure that will help them succeed not only in the short term but in the long term by having a solid foundation and complying with the rules that will allow them the maximum opportunity for success from a legal perspective, taxation perspective, and keep them out of trouble from, for example, an immigration law perspective.
And I'm sorry, can you define what you mean by rules? Are you talking about law or something else?
Well, certainly there are laws that apply and that they need to comply with, but there are also structural issues. For example, setting up the initial ownership structure for a business entity is more complex than you might think. You need to think about how you incentivize each of the owners. You need to think about what happens if one owner participates for only 2 or 3 weeks and then leaves. Should that owner continue to own 1/4, for example, of the stock in the company? Most of the time we address that through a thing called a vesting schedule, so that that particular founder would keep a little bit of their stock if they leave, but the remainder of the stock would either go back to the company or to the other owners. That way, that departing owner is not overly rewarded when they did not actually contribute the sweat equity that the other owners are going to contribute. From a tax perspective, there are a lot of decisions that need to be made with respect to setting up the company that can have short-term and long-term income tax effects. For example, if the vesting schedule and 83B election are not filed properly, we can end up with a significant amount of phantom income when the individual, in fact, doesn't have money to pay tax on or pay the tax that would become due on that income. As well, there are issues that surface over the long term. For example, on exit, there are some nuances in how you set up the company that most people don't think about unless they've gone through the process several times. And so I help alert these entrepreneurs to those issues and help them create the correct structures so that they minimize the income tax effects and maximize the legal compliance aspects and maximize the opportunity for success through proper equity incentives that are geared towards contributions that the founders and folks that join later actually make.
Alan, what advice would you like to share with other EIRs?
Don't give advice in a vacuum. Always try to understand not only for example, I come with a background in the legal area. I'm a patent attorney and a corporate attorney, but don't give advice in a vacuum. You need to always understand the legal aspects, but then you also need to understand the market influences that the client is dealing with, the realities of the situation, and always try to keep in mind the big picture.
Alan, where can we learn more about entrepreneurs in residence and your work as an EIR?
There are 2 sites. My law firm is worldwidewebsingletonlawfirm.com. And then the University of Illinois Research Park Business Incubator Enterprise Works is researchpark.illinois.edu/enterpriseworks.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you.
For more about this, visit EIRpodcast.com. Don't forget to please subscribe, rate, and review. Tune in next week for the next episode. Thanks for listening.